Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
There's some items to declare as surplus, mathematics textbooks, an overhead projector, typewriter, and a dot matrix printer. May I have a motion to approve those?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, like a motion for the approval of the amendment to the superintendent's contract.
So moved.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Like a motion for the approval of the goals for 2012-2013 school year.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. And I'd like a motion for the approval of the stipulation of agreement that's contained in the backup. That would help you.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Simon.
Good evening. I'd like to begin by thanking a number of people, including all of you in the audience, for helping make the start of this school year a very smooth and successful one. This was my third start as a superintendent in Islip, and I can say that even with all the changes that were in place, I thought it was the smoothest and really most successful opening, even with the difficult weather on the first day with our students. I want to single out a couple of people. I know there's always a risk in doing that, but I do want you to know that although all of our administrative team did a lot of work over the summer to get ready, in particular our 4 elementary principals put in a lot of extra time. 3 of the 4 of them were in new buildings, are in new buildings. All 4 of them have significant increases in student population. They did an outstanding job. Many of them were here on Saturdays and Sundays over the summer, particularly in late August, to be sure. So I want to thank Dan Hunter and Dawn Morrison and Jack Maniscalco and John Mullins for really doing a great job. And in very difficult circumstances, truthfully, and with many changes, I think they have really served the district well. Really as a kind of a person who made a lot of their work possible, that's James Bossy and our custodial and maintenance staff. They did yeoman's work this summer, right up to Labor Day weekend, furniture, moving boxes, doing construction, getting our buildings ready. And were they 100% perfect? No, but they were really close to that. They continue to work to address any of the small remaining needs, but our buildings were clean and they were safe and they were ready for students and for our staff when we opened just about 2 weeks ago. I also want to single out our transportation director, Jerry Sabatosa, did a great job. A lot of changes in our bus routes, a lot of changes. Our elementary schools have more buses now in each of them. She worked really hard over the summer to get those correct. And to Bernadette Burns, who kind of made light and said, well, we got our APPR proposal in. It got in, and it got in a timely and thorough way because of the attention to detail and the hard work that Mrs. Burns did over the summer, so I want to thank her as well. Our teachers and staff, I think, came back with great enthusiasm, have greeted our students and gotten them working. I've been in the buildings a lot, and then many people say to me, it seems like it's the middle of the year already. And to parents and students, you had your students ready, you were ready, some of you more than others, to have them back in school, and you did a great job because they came back ready to learn and with a lot of enthusiasm, so thank you. As Mr. Geller mentioned, I'm very proud of the fact that the extensive work that the committee that looked at some of the challenges this district faced last year and zeroed in on the fact that we made a decision, the board made a decision to close 2 elementary schools. We worked very hard to make sure that class sizes and the numbers would come out in a way that would support and continue the good work that this district has done. And I want to just distribute to the board. I worked on this afternoon. I just want to give you some data, and if anybody wants more detail, you can see me. But as Mr. Geller said earlier, our K-5 average class size across the district is 21.2 students. And I'm going to go grade by grade and just quickly give you the data. At kindergarten, our average class size is 19.8. At first grade, it's 21.9. At second grade, it's 20.9. At third grade, it's 20.8. At fourth grade, it's 21.1. And at fifth grade, it's 22.9. Now, to put that in real terms, we have 95 elementary class sections. Every one of them falls within the normal range of what our contract says class sizes should be. That's the first time in my 3 years that's happened. In my first 2 years, we had a number of sections where we went over the recommended range and into that 10% zone that by contract we're allowed to beyond those ranges. So, for instance, kindergarten's range by contract is 18 to 22. We're right in the middle. We're, in fact, just slightly below the middle. First, second, and third grade is 20 to 24, and our averages are running right around 20.8 to 21.9. And fourth and fifth, it's 24 to 27. The largest class is a 25, and there's only one section of that, and that's in fifth grade. So I think we did a really good job of projecting where our class sizes would be, the number of sections we would need, and the number of classrooms. So I wanted to share that with you to really reinforce what we promised all along, that that would be a priority for this district, and I think we have met that priority in a very good fashion. So that's my opening day of school report. I do have one action item, and I just want to, should I describe it first, or do you want me to ask for a motion and then do it during discussion? It's the reorganization. Describe it. Okay. The board is going to be voting on a proposal to make some additional reorganization to our district office and administrative structure. And I want to give the audience just a little bit of background, because it's a pretty comprehensive proposal, and it's in the backup for the board. When the current budget that we're now operating under was approved last spring, there was a great deal of discussion of ways to save money. And one of the big areas that we looked at was continued consolidation of administrative services so that the district would save as much money as possible. So we are operating this year, for instance, with 2 fewer assistant superintendents. And this year's budget plan called for the following change to happen. That when Dr. Parvey left in January, we did not fill that position. And when Mr. Zokia announced he was retiring and planned to leave at the end of November, this budget said that when those 2 things had happened, we would replace those 2 positions with 1 position of a lesser title, saving the district somewhere in the neighborhood of $220,000 by going from 2 assistant superintendents to 1 sort of district office director level. That changed when Mr. Zokia announced that he was going to retire earlier than he had anticipated, not in November, but in fact retired from the district in July. And we then had an opportunity to kind of look at the various functions that both his office and Dr. Parvey's office had provided. And the proposal that I've submitted to the board is an even, I would say, more cost-efficient way of trying to deliver administrative services. So that tonight you're being asked to approve a revised plan that in fact saves another additional $75,000 beyond the original $220,000 from the way we're going to reorganize and provide some of the services. The plan eliminates filling that, quote, new director position at district office and allocates the responsibilities that had been handled by both Dr. Parvey's office and Mr. Zokia to Mrs. Burns, some of them, to Mrs. Duffy, some of them, and to myself. In turn, some of our directors will take on additional responsibilities that had previously been handled by some of the assistant superintendents. The plan that you'll be voting on and that you've had a chance over the last month to digest details the specific changes and the compensation for the various work that's going on. So at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval of the central office reorganization plan.
So moved.
$75,000 net savings reflects all of the stipends and salary increases that are incorporated into these changes. So in essence, after all of the reorganization, we're still saving, the district is still saving money. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Any notices or reminders? Okay, I apologize because I missed this at the beginning. I would like to ask everybody for a moment of silence at this time to commemorate all those lost in the attacks on September 11th, as well as to reflect on all of the people that are in harm's way overseas, fighting for our freedom, and those that have lost their lives over these last years. Thank you. Okay. Wendy Regan. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Can I slide this out a little bit? Regarding the status of the Curdy and Westbrook buildings, the Board of Ed has stated that tenants are being sought for both buildings. There are no for sale or for lease signs on either property, as the Board of Ed didn't authorize Winkler Real Estate to place signs on either property. I've searched the Winkler Real Estate website, multiple listing services, commercial division website, loopnet.com, costar.com, and was unable to find either building listed for sale or for lease. From where are potential tenants being sought?
Well, you wouldn't find a for sale sign because the buildings are not for sale.
Or for lease.
Excuse me?
Or for lease.
Understand. I don't think that putting signs up on the lawn would gather much. I don't know exactly how Mrs. Winkler has gotten her prospective tenants, but I can tell you that she is in discussion with many of them. So
We've gone through a lot of those possibilities, but we're also dealing with the town. We're dealing with the town because of the, what's it called, the hearing, the Monroe hearing, that requires that a tax-exempt organization like a school district, in order to rent the property to a non-tax exempt institution, needs to get special approval from the town. That is going to occur on the 27th of September. So we've been stymied by town regulations on actually going forward with the evaluation of, not the evaluation, but with engaging a party to rent the building.
But, as I said, Mrs. Winkler continues to.
And that's an open
Be in
hearing,
discussion.
John,
Yes,
the
it is.
27th, so if you'd like to attend on September 27th, it's nice at town meeting on September 27th.
Regarding the signed contract between the real estate broker and the district, under the contract scope of broker services, it states that the broker shall provide a written monthly report to the superintendent containing current and new marketing efforts, any contacts, leads, or other developments regarding the sale or lease of both properties. That contract was signed March 15th of this year, and as of September 4th of this year, the broker has not submitted any of the written monthly reports to the district.
Are you asking a question or making a statement?
Well, that's a statement. I don't understand why the board isn't following up or requesting those written statements.
We've had actually oral presentations.
According to the contract, it meaning the contract cannot be changed orally.
Contract has not been changed orally. We've had presentations as to status of it.
So I'm not following. So are you stating that?
That means she's made oral presentations to the board on steps that she's taken to engage.
Yes, that I understand, but according to the contract, it says that she was supposed to submit monthly written reports to the district. None of those have been submitted. So how is the public supposed to know what's going on?
As we've explained and we've given updates in the past, this is how the public gets informed on it.
Okay, will the Board of Ed be following up with the broker to have those monthly written reports?
We'll make sure that the information, pertinent information is provided to the public.
Meaning you're going to ask her for the monthly written reports?
We're going to ask her for a report when it's appropriate to do so. Thus far, our discussions have been in executive session because it related to contract negotiations, which are not subject to scrutiny of the public.
Regarding the overcrowded conditions at the elementary schools, of the current Board of Ed members, how many have children attending one of the elementary schools?
Just take exception to the statement of crowded conditions because we just said that class sizes are well below the norm and the lowest they've been in several years. I don't have any children in the elementary school.
Any of the other board members have children in the elementary school?
I have a niece and a nephew at their well there.
But no children of your own in the elementary school?
Not right now, no. What's the point?
I beg your pardon, Mrs. LaRosa? I beg your pardon, Mrs. LaRosa?
Excuse me.
Mr. Geller, I respectfully request that you either enforce the Board of Ed members' code of conduct with Mrs. LaRosa or remove her from the auditorium, as this is the second time I've been verbally harassed by the Vice President of the Board of Education while asking a question at a Board of Ed meeting.
Mrs. Reed, please continue.
Will you enforce the code of conduct?
As I deem it necessary, I will.
Regarding the words I used, overcrowding, I believe they're overcrowded. The average might be 21, there were 25 children in my son's class.
Right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. What's up, Fidel?
Sorry. I have two quick questions. The first one was on the testing data. Mrs. LaRosa, you mentioned that they were looking at using the testing data to, I guess, target teaching where appropriate. Will that be K through 12, or was it just targeted in a special?
Yes, no, we look at data, well, we look at classroom data regularly, but also the 3 through 8 testing and all of the region testing, everything is looked at.
Okay. In the elementary schools, when will we actually see the data, and more importantly, when will the classroom teachers see the data for the students they
The
now
classroom
have?
teachers have access to the data right now.
Because we asked at open house, and they didn't have it yet.
It is available online, so tomorrow morning I will make sure that the teachers are aware that
Okay.
it's there.
Great.
And we are awaiting, BOCES is printing the individual student reports, known as the ISRs, and as soon as they send them to us,
They'll be entered.
they will be,
Okay.
no, they will be sent right out to you.
Oh,
If
okay.
you want your own child's information, you may call your child's principal or teacher, and they will be able to give it to you.
Okay, great. And just one other question, and I don't know if I missed this in any of the meetings over the summer, but the APPR, at some point, I know you said that you submitted the proposed plan, and it's probably going to get tweaked and have to be readjusted, but has it been presented to the public? Like, do we know yet? Because I don't want to make you redo something you've done already, but when will we get an explanation of what that is? And the reason I ask is because the general feeling that I'll speak for myself, the general feeling that I'm seeing is teachers are very tense and stressed, and if perhaps parents can understand a little bit more as to that pressure that's being put on them, we might understand it a little bit better.
That's a great question, and I absolutely, agree with you that this change is creating across the state a lot of stress. We will post, once it's approved by the state, we will post the entire APPR plan on the website, but I think you'll see over the course of this year, both at board meetings and education committee meetings, in your building committees, we're going to roll out the changes and educate the community as we educate our faculty. So for instance, at my opening remarks on Superintendent's Conference Day, I did do an overview PowerPoint for our staff on the major changes that APPR includes, and I'd be glad to be invited to any parent groups to, share with you, because it is complicated, you need a context for it, and truthfully, it's a work in progress. We're going to, as many districts will, be trying this out and tweaking it as we go along. But I think it's a great topic that I think I would encourage each PTA to invite both Mrs. Burns and I to come. We'd be glad to come and share with you the details of how it works.
So that new testing that I'm understanding is field testing now, that takes place after math testing. Is that part of the CPR or is that state testing? Or is there a difference?
That's really part of the state testing. I'm being very blunt, to save money, because the state has money issues as well, where field testing used to be done kind of separate from the regular testing, and it was on a more limited basis, and schools were rotated every 4 or 5 years. They've embedded it within the regular state testing. It's one of the reasons that the testing is so much longer, which we absolutely think is a mistake. So the bottom line is the state would say to you, it has to be done because from a psychometric point of view, to make these questions valid, they have to test them to be sure they're appropriate, and they've built them in. They're doing a little bit separate in the fall to try to break that up this year. They're going to try to do some field testing this fall, independent of the spring testing. But I think overall, it's part of the problem with this whole system.
Mr. Fidelli, I do want to add, you're right. I think there is a lot of stress felt by the teachers and the administrators due to APPR. And Mr. Simon, I guess, spoke about this last month, an overview, but there's more people here, so I'll repeat it. APPR agreements were struck between the district and the Teachers Association, and the district and the Administrators Association. It was a lot of hard work and a lot of great cooperation between our administration and attorney and the leadership of the Teachers Association and the Administrators Association.
I think it's great that we were able to even get that far. I know the last year, a lot of school districts are struggling just to even get that plan in place. The concern that I have as a parent at the elementary level is balancing that elementary experience with enhanced or enriched programming, whether that's through our arts and education or whatever it is, that we can bring into the school for the children. It's starting to feel as though it's going to be a challenge because there's so much pressure put on it with these testing. And our staff, the conversations we've had so far with the principal and the staff have been great. We're trying to work together to meet that balance, but I think it's important to bring it up in a forum like this to say the experience of our elementary school children is unlike the middle school and the high school. We realize when they get into middle school and high school, they don't have as many cultural arts experiences as they can, or assemblies, if you will. And now it seems as though it's going to be even harder for us to bring in enrichment programs during the school day because the teachers are feeling the stress. So it's just something that I'm wondering if we can learn more about.
I agree with you. I think it will be more difficult to carve out those periods of time for interrupted instruction during the day to give them these very beneficial programs. So I think that discussion should happen at the building level to try and work something out. Maybe consider school hours, inviting them in. I know you don't get everybody in on the captive audience, but you're still being able to bring it in, offer it to your school community as a way.
It's certainly a possibility, but we also are experiencing the premium for space. There are so many organizations and great community organizations that need that space. So we're definitely looking at options, but just, we keep hearing that a lot of the requirements have changed with this new APPR, so we're just trying to get a grasp on what exactly it
It might be worth a look to see if you can take the programs that you're bringing in and their relevance to the target grade level that you're presenting it to and what they're learning at that particular time in terms of the core curriculum and what's going on in the classroom, so that although the time is outside of the classroom, it can relate very specifically to what they're learning about, so the teacher can use that as not only the experience to enrich, but also as a learning tool in the classroom. So maybe it needs to be tweaked in terms of what you're bringing in and how it relates.
I'll just make a broader comment that there is a pushback occurring in this country from a number of advocacy groups about the over-reliance on testing. I'm hoping that over the next few years, some of that will come to pass. And I think some of that has to be borne by parents who need to speak up in a forceful way through your groups, through the PTAs, which are lobbying strongly both at the state and national level. And in reading a lot of the journals I do, administrative journals, I'm hoping that maybe down the road the tide will turn a little bit, because I was at the opening meeting of the Islip cluster superintendents last week, and one of the superintendents kind of sheepishly reported that they started school by a full week of testing for all their elementary students because they needed to get that baseline data. And what was their rationale? We want to test them right away because they're kind of, been away for the summer, so they'll have really low scores so that they'll show great growth. And I said, what a way to start an elementary year to create a week of testing. I said, what a mistake. And a lot of schools have been driven to that. We're trying to resist that. We're trying to balance. We have to meet the state requirements. APPR is just one piece of a bigger picture that's happening. But I think all of us in our roles as parents and as educators do have to make sure that our politicians hear from us and that government officials, enough is enough. That students, especially at the elementary level, it's a great time to do exploration, to really connect with students, and not to put so many students and teachers in these positions of feeling, hemmed in by the testing requirements.
In short, we share your concerns, but, this is what we're dealing with.